than than in real life. So we're going to be looking at new frontiers, but also particularly how to teach online, because the current situation that we have, we don't really know how long this situation will last, wherever we are in the world. This is my beautiful assistant, Miss Ocha. So as just to remind you that we will have questions and answers in the middle and at the end. So you should put any questions in the chat box to Miss Ocha if you can, but if you put in the chat box generally, she will pick up the messages and we will try to answer as many as we can. Okay, does this look familiar? Um, Even when we go to school, we have social distancing methods in place. We have to, there are all sorts of measures that the government is trying to put in place. But online teaching is a real challenge, okay? So just, I'd like you to look at this tree, okay, for a moment. And where do you think you are on the tree at the moment regarding your confidence with teaching online? Are you down here? Are you hanging from the tree? Are you up here already? Yeah? Or maybe you are giving some support to someone. Well, I'll tell you where I was, all right? A few months ago, I was down here. So although I knew in theory how to teach online, in the last few months, I have been teaching all kinds of situations, all kinds of classes, all kinds of training online, and I've had to learn very fast. So I would say now I'm somewhere up here, okay? And I will try to help you today to give you some more confidence as a teacher, okay? So try to remember this tree because we'll look at it later on, and I hope that you have climbed the tree a little bit by the end. Indonesian people are very creative, I think. And I really like this photo that was shared with me on social media just a few days ago. It shows that when you have a very small restaurant, you can still be very creative. And I think the same is true as a teacher, okay? We are having to teach in a new environment online. It can feel very unfamiliar, but sometimes we can make the best of it. And if you look at this restaurant, it's possible that in some ways it is even better than a bigger restaurant. It has something cozy about it, something that is different. Okay, so, and remember, if we are creative, then our learners will also be more creative. And if our learners are more creative, then the lesson also becomes much easier. So I'm going to start off with some tips as well. And we're going to also start off with an activity. So when we start off the class, a good idea is not just to wait for the students to come in and say hello and how are you. Give them something to think about. So just like you would in a real class and a face-to-face class, you might have some ideas on the board. So it might be a review of the last class. Might be a review of the last class. There might be a page of the book that you have put up to remind them what you're going to look at today. Don't forget that if your students have the book at home, that is a great resource. They don't have to do everything on the screen. And you can give them some questions to answer. So I'm going to give you some questions to answer that are related to the topics we're going to look at today. Okay, so here are the questions. Would you rather go without breakfast or lunch for 1 month? Now, this is a very difficult question, I know, for people in Indonesia who love food. All right, so it's a tricky one. Which one would you go without? Would you rather lose your sense of taste or your sense of smell? And a scary question, would you rather be alone in a cage with a lion or in the sea with a shark? And the last one, would you rather live without a smartphone or a TV or a washing machine? So we're going to do this in the form of a poll. And this is one of the options you have in a class, an online class. It's much easier, in fact, online than in a face-to-face class. And they are a great way to engage the class, especially at the start or at the end of an activity. Okay, so I am going to now share with you the questions. You will see the option on your screen, and I would like you to choose the option that is true for you.
Ya, silakan Bapak Ibu bisa dipilih ya pollingnya, kemudian di-submit.
Okay, 10 people have already answered. Very interesting answers here. I think Indonesian teachers are very brave. They're not scared of lions, it seems. Okay, I will give you another 20 seconds to vote. Most people have already voted. And if you didn't get the chance to vote this time, don't worry, because we have 3 more polls in this session today. Okay, so most people, oh, we're almost everybody has voted. So that means that Indonesian teachers are not only creative, but also technologically literate. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling now. And you can see on the screen, right, that most people would prefer to skip breakfast. Now, I hope that you did not skip breakfast today, because I want you to be very focused on my session. A lot of people would like to lose their sense of smell rather than their sense of taste. That doesn't surprise me in Indonesia, but what surprised me is how many people are not scared to be in a cage with a lion. So you're obviously very brave people. And right, yes, and the last one, I think for me, a washing machine is the most important, but maybe now that we are doing classes online, we don't need to wash so often. Okay, so let's close that for now. I hope you enjoyed that little activity. And another option that we have, which we're going to use in a moment, is breakout rooms. Now, this is something that teacher can set up very easily. I won't go into the technical ways to do that, but they are great for large classes, which is why I wanted to do this today to show you the benefits. Okay, since we have around 120 teachers, if we use breakout rooms, you have the chance to talk. Right? And I do believe that Indonesian teachers do like to talk. So if we have breakout rooms, we have that option. They also allow your students to complete tasks together in small groups. And the teacher can enter breakout rooms. So you can only enter one at a time. But if you have, for example, 30 in a class and you have 5 or 6 breakout rooms, it's quite easy to visit all the breakout rooms and keep an eye on your students. So in a moment, I am going to put you into breakout rooms. And because later we're going to be looking at the topic of music in New Frontiers, I have decided that I want groups of 4, and I want each member of the breakout room to choose a musical superhero. Do you recognize these? I hope you do, because I want you to choose to be one of these when you're in your breakout room, okay? So the first one is Justin. The second one is Adele. The next one is Ludwig, and the last one is Paul. Okay, so if I have to choose which one I want to be, I think I want to be Adele. Okay, so maybe you'll need to argue about who is going to be who, but I want you to choose in the next 2 minutes who is going to be which character, and then I will explain why we have done that activity. Okay?
Okay.
Do you want to quickly explain, Ochan?
Ya, oke. So dear educators, sebentar lagi kita akan terbagi ya dalam beberapa ruangan Zoom meeting yang berisi nanti akan ada 4 orang di masing-masing ruangan, dan nantinya di dalam ruangan tersebut silahkan Bapak Ibu dapat berdiskusi sesuai instruksi dari Mr. David tadi ya. Dan apabila sudah selesai berdiskusi, harap menunggu notifikasi untuk kembali ke ruangan utama Zoom meeting ini. Nanti akan ada notifikasi muncul sehingga bisa kembali ke ruangan utama. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so now I'm going to put you in rooms, and I want you all to join the room, and you will meet 3 new people. Okay. Let me check. I am unmuted. Okay. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed meeting some new people. In a class, you will have more time. Okay, so you have more time, you have fewer students, and you can give them any task you like and then bring them back in. Now, why did I ask you to choose the name of a musical superhero? Well, when I have large classes, face-to-face classes with children, for example, I might ask them to pick a fruit. So you might have banana, pineapple, apple, strawberry. And then when I want the pineapples to speak to the bananas, I will say bananas speak to pineapples, strawberries speak to apples. Okay. And I can change the characters depending on the topic. So in this case, I've chosen musical characters for teenagers. I could ask them to research a little bit about these characters before choosing which one they want to be. But it makes class management for large classes much easier. Once I've created the breakout room, I can keep the same breakout rooms for every class. So the next activity that we used, where we use breakout rooms, you will be with the same people. So Adele, Ludwig, Justin, and Paul will also be together. Okay. So we're going to do some more activities focusing more specifically on a unit. And the unit, as you might be able to guess, the topic starts with music. Okay. And we're going to, another tip here is to share the whiteboard. Okay. So this is quite easy to do. I click share and then whiteboard, and I can write on the board. Okay, now there are 120 of you, so I'd just like you quickly to type in the chat box any kinds of music that you like. So I'm going to start off by typing jazz. Okay, and I would like you to type in the chat box, and then Ocha, can you just tell me what you see in the chat box? Okay.
Okay. R&B.
Okay.
And then pop.
Pop. Yeah.
Pop rock.
Pop rock. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just pop, it's pop rock. Yeah. Give me some more.
And then country music.
Country. Hey, country. Yeah.
Britpop.
Oh, yes. The very best.
And then folk.
Oh, I have a problem with my keyboard now.
Mm-hmm.
Brit pop. Very good.
And then classic.
Folk. Wait. Folk and classical.
Yeah.
It seems to be I think it's because so many people are typing at the same time. I'm having trouble. Okay, we'll put one more.
And then we have dangdut here.
We have what?
Dangdut. It's a music from Indonesia. Dangdut.
Can you spell it for me?
D.
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
N.
Yeah.
G.
Yeah.
D.
Yeah.
U.
Yeah.
And T.
Right. Okay. Well, I love to have workshops where I learn something new. So so hopefully the Mentari team, the lovely Mentari team, will share with me some dang dut after the session so that I can learn.
Sure.
So using the whiteboard, very similar to in a classroom. In fact, you can also allow the students to write directly onto the board. Now, the only reason that we didn't do that today is because there are so many of you. But in a typical class of 30 or 40, you can allow your students to write on the board, okay? So I will just go back to the presentation then. So thank you for those. So the students will have the option of writing on the board using the annotate function, which we're not using today because we have such a large class. So now another tip online is to use Classbox. Now I'm sure you are familiar with Classbox, but you might not have used the ebook function, which really is a fantastic resource, because not only can you, sorry, can everyone see this? Ocha, is it visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Great, okay. So I don't need to use a PowerPoint or anything like that. I can use the whiteboard and I can use Classbox. And I can even write onto the screen if I want, like this. I can show every page of the book, and it really is a fantastic resource. Okay, so it means that you have no preparation to do. As we will see later, there are also a lot of other functions, not only the book, but also the many extra resources that you can download. Okay, so I'm going to go back now to the PowerPoint. Okay, so this was the page that we just saw, and I am going to play some pieces of music, and I want you to guess the genre. So we already had some different types of music that we saw on the whiteboard. I would like you to identify what genre of music you can hear. Okay, so you should be able to hear in a moment the sound of some music, which is very nice on a Saturday morning.
Track 3-2. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5.
Okay, so well, in a real class, I would again bring up the whiteboard, and we would write in the types of music that we heard. But to save time, I will give you the answers. The first one was classical, second was rock. The third was what is nowadays called EDM, electronic dance music. The fourth was folk, and the fifth was pop. Now, I know some of you musicians out there might disagree, okay, which is fine. We can talk about that another time. Are there any genres missing? Ocha, can you think of a genre that is missing here? Maybe something from Indonesia?
There is no koplo here.
Okay, okay, and how about this one? What is this called?
Yeah, some answers. Angklung, yay.
Yeah, yes, it is indeed in Angklung. So I learned to play this on another visit to Indonesia. It wasn't an online visit, as you can see, it was a real visit. Okay, so I'm trying to move down. Okay, so that was the missing genre. So today I have learned that there is another two kinds of music I need to learn. Yes,
Dangdut?
that you just mentioned.
Yeah, dangdut.
Yeah, and then I think there was another one too.
Oh,
Okay.
Koplo.
Okay. Right. Okay. Right. I think could I ask people to stop using the annotate button function? I appreciate that you're interested and now you know how it works. I'm going to clear these. So as you can see, with annotate, the students do have that option to write. So please, whoever this person is, can you stop writing on the board? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I think we can skip this because of time, but in a real online class with my students, I would now ask Ludwig, Justin, Adele and Paul to ask each other what music they like, because now they have learned some ways to describe music. They have learned pop, folk, rock, EDM, and a few more. They can talk about angklung, for example, any kind of music that they have come up with. And again, the benefit of the breakout room is it means they actually get to speak and use that language. Okay, even if some of them use Bahasa, it's not a great problem. At least they are communicating rather than having a passive class. Okay, so I absolutely recommend using breakout rooms in this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the topic, we've talked about entertainment. You can see there is another kind of entertainment in the picture. So these people, if I were teaching in the class, I might say, okay, what can we see? We can see games consoles, yeah? We can see people playing computer games, yeah? And we might have a discussion about that. And I think we can also start to talk about different types of entertainment. Again, I think we can, okay, for the people who want to write and the people who have learned to annotate, okay, could you just write on the screen? Could you write a few other kinds of entertainment? Okay, so I'm going to bring the whiteboard up again. I'm going to clear this. So anyone who wants to write, feel free to write another type of entertainment on the whiteboard? Oh, stand-up comedy. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Okay. Oh, Netflix. Yeah, okay. Ocha, if anyone sends you some ideas in the chat box, just let me know.
Yeah. From Mr. Iwan, traditional game, he said.
Traditional games, yeah. So maybe you mean like board games, for example. Right, I'm having trouble writing because other people are writing at the same time. So.
And then we have from Miss Fiona, horror movie.
Oh, that's
good.
scary. Right, but I think that can come under the category of, yes, someone who's written in handwriting, which is fine. Yeah, that's great. So I think this is great because people are seeing how the students can actually participate using the whiteboard. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah, YouTube is a great resource. Reading, absolutely. Okay. So we've had a few ideas here, and can you stop writing now, please? Okay, so some ideas are films and entertainment, computer and mobile games, and sports. Okay, now what we're going to do now, please can you stop writing, Mr. Dewey? Okay. Another option, another way to use the poll this time, instead of only choosing one option, you can choose as many as you like. So I'm going to give you another poll to see which activities are most popular. So remember, this time you can choose, if there are 3 that you like or 4 that you like, you can choose 3 or 4 or just 1, up to you. Great that I'm seeing now in the chat box a lot of other ideas. Watching National Geographic, so that's documentaries, and watching cartoons and singing contests and binge watching. So a lot of good vocabulary in this class. Okay, again, most people have voted. I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay, and let's see the results. So we see that most people like watching films, listening to music. Not so many like playing sports and playing a musical instrument. So I think Ocha, I think Mentari, we need to encourage our teachers to relax a little bit more. Right, to de-stress by playing sports and playing music. Okay, so this is a good way, I think, to introduce the topics of different types of entertainment. Okay, right, now let's imagine that aliens landed on Earth. Okay, what would they find strange about our entertainment? What would they find strange about our entertainment? I'd like you to to think about that for a minute. Perhaps, or maybe what do you think they would find most strange? So if I clear this again, so maybe, for example, maybe they would find our music very strange, right? What do you think? Feel free to write on the whiteboard. What do you think aliens would find most strange? Again, Ocha, let me know.
Yeah, we have answers here,
Okay,
Mr.
great.
David, from the chat box. From Miss Rizky, that we move our body when we listen to music.
Yeah, so dancing, it might be very odd. Doing TikTok might seem very strange to aliens. Some sports might seem very strange. Anything else?
That there are things called filters on social media.
There are things called what?
Filters.
Filters,
Yeah.
yes. So they might find it strange that we want to look different.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, okay. Very good. Okay, we won't spend any more time in that. In a real class, of course, we can spend more time on that. But this time, we're going to use the book. One of the great features of New Frontiers is the video and audio resources that are available online. So we can watch the video, okay? And we can watch the video either by scanning the QR code or by clicking on the link. And I will send the link in a minute in the chat box. So if you are using a computer and you have a separate mobile phone, please scan the QR code here. In the meantime, I am also going to share in the chat box the sorry, I'm going to have to close this again. Okay, so the link is now in the chat box, everybody, and the QR code will be on the screen right now. Sorry, no, it won't. Here we are. So what I would like you to do now is watch the video and see if your predictions were correct. So what is it that the aliens find strange about our entertainment?
Yeah, we have a response from Miss Leah, Mr. David.
Yes?
She says it's about music. They found Earth's music strange.
Yes, absolutely. Again, in a real class, I would put you into breakout rooms to discuss the answers. I'm not going to do that now, again, for the benefit of saving time. We will go into breakout rooms after the break for a different activity. So in a real class, I would ask the students to watch the video, okay? Because if it's online, they can mute themselves, watch the video, then come back and discuss the questions. Yeah, so any more answers, Miss Ocha?
Yep, they found music and strange creature, and they also have no idea what alien is.
Oh, all right. So this is very good. Like we have a real class today. What is an alien?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then
an alien is a creature or person from space, from another planet, for example. Yeah.
music and also movie talks about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. So before we go on to the first Q&A, I'm just going to show you another feature. So when two more things that you can find online through ClassBox, the teacher's book, okay, which will give you a lot of extra ideas. It will also give you the answers to the questions, okay? So this is really helpful. All of these ideas are adaptable for use in online lessons as well. And in addition, you have extra ideas for each unit. So for example, for this unit, there is a cartoon, right? Based on the video. So we could use this, we could go into chat rooms. Remember that you can share through the chat box, which we will do later. You can share documents. So they can role play, the students, or you could blank out some of these and get the students to predict what is being said. Okay, so another great resource here. Okay, so now I will I'll take a break from the PowerPoint and I will ask Miss Ocha to share any questions that we have.
Yeah, actually there's still no question, but please educators, if you have any question, please you can type it on the chat box or use the raise hand feature. Silakan Bapak Ibu, jika sejauh ini ada pertanyaan bisa dituliskan di chat box.
Alternatively, we can continue and do the questions at the end. It's up to you.
Yeah,
but we'll
maybe
give you
we will wait for
we'll wait for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there is a question from Mr. Basuki. How can we access the class box?
How can you access the class box? Okay. You get an account, which I believe is from Mentari. Yeah. And okay. You get an account and I will show you. Well, the thing is I'm already logged in, but I can share with you how I can navigate it. Okay, so once I log in. Okay. I will go to my bookshelf, and then whichever books I have on my bookshelf will appear. So today we are looking at New Frontiers Level 3. I can navigate it here, and this is here is where I will find the download. So the navigation is very easy. I can also put a page number here. It will go straight to the page. I can zoom in. Sorry, this is the wrong button. Apologies for that. I can zoom in here to focus on particular parts of the or even on particular pictures. Okay, I can play the audio here as well, which is a very useful tool. And importantly, I can also download all of some of these we have already talked about, but including the tests. So for example, in an online situation, you can access all of this. Some of them you might want to share. The answer key is here, the transcript, MP3. The extra activities I mentioned are in miscellaneous. TG is the teacher's guide. And the students, there is also a version, a big box for the students, which includes the ebook and some games, but obviously it doesn't feature all of the downloadable activities. Any more questions?
Yeah, it's from Muhammad Fahmi, Mr. Muhammad Fahmi. Most of my students are using smartphone, not a laptop or PC. So can they use Annotate or Breakout Rooms on smartphone? Or how to solve that? What do you think, Mr. David?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you very much. They can use Breakout Rooms. Using Annotate would be very difficult, obviously. So what I would recommend is that you adapt as we have done today. So I would be in control of the whiteboard, and I will write up the ideas that they come up with. Of course, for everybody, a laptop is ideal, but not everybody has a laptop. So of course we have to adapt. But don't forget as well that the students, if they have the hard copy book, you make as much use of that as you can, and they can still share ideas in breakout rooms, for example. The breakout rooms will work very well with phones.
Okay, that's great. And I think one more question, yeah, Mr. David, before you continue. Is there any suggestions of application that we can use to make our presentation more attractive for students, since now they are starting to get bored, study at home?
Okay, well, first of all, I think you should have confidence in yourself, right? The students don't expect you to teach them about technology. They know more about technology than we do. And my experience, and as I say, I have 27 years of experience, and a large part of that was managing teachers. And I found one of the biggest problems I had with teachers was when they tried to do too much. They worried too much, and they tried to use too much technology, and the students often get bored as a result of that. Have confidence in yourself. Using ClassBox it means that everything is there for you. If you have access to a computer or a laptop, then you can annotate directly and write directly onto ClassBox. If you use Zoom or something similar to Zoom, okay, there are other options. then you can also use a whiteboard. Okay, so don't, as I say, don't panic. All right. One of the reasons I wanted to show you these features today, like the breakout room, the poll, is it also allows the teacher a little bit of space, a little bit of time to think. Right, so you don't need to be speaking all the time. You put the onus on the students to work with each other or to think. You know, a poll, for example, for the students, they will need to think about it before they answer. Every activity that we have done today will take longer in a real classroom. Okay.
Okay,
I'll just, I've just seen a question that I'd like to answer, if you don't mind,
yeah.
Miss Ocha.
Yeah, that's fine.
There was a question about timing for breakout rooms. The timing is completely up to you. All right. So when you press close breakout rooms, when you click on that, normally they will be given 30 seconds to leave, and then they will be returned to the main screen automatically. Okay, but you can change that setting. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. David. Maybe we can continue to the next materials.
Yes, I think that's an excellent idea, and I hope that people are enjoying it today. It's a bit difficult to know because we can't hear anyone speaking. Okay, what we're going to do now is an idea for making reading more fun online. Okay, and what I would like you to do is to think about these questions first of all. So just as in a real classroom, you might ask your students to predict the answers to questions. This time, we will do it in the form of a poll, okay? So this time it's a true or false poll that I'm going to give you. A pre-reading activity. So you just choose true or false. So some interesting ideas. Ten more seconds. Okay, I will end the polling and share the results with you. So people, about half and half, believe that sugar used to be very expensive. And in my country, in the UK, they are considering a tax on sugar now to make it more expensive. So do you think this would be popular in Indonesia, a tax on sugar? I think actually it's quite a good idea. Almost 3/4 of people put true for number 2. Okay, most people thought the French were the first to wear high heels. Okay, So we have done our pre-reading question in the form of a poll, and the reading I am going to share in the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to share a document, so you should all be able to download and view this. Of course, it will be easier if you are using a computer or a tablet, okay? And what I would do then is I would ask you, you all have names. So Justin, I want you to read number 1. Adele, I want you to read number 2. And Ludwig and Paul, I want you to read number 3. Okay? And I am going to then, in a minute or two, I will put you back into the breakout rooms, and I want you to share with the others in your group what you learned. So remember, if you were Justin, you read number 1. If you are Adele, you read number 2. And if you are Ludwig or Paul, you read number 3. Now, I appreciate this can be difficult if you are using a mobile phone, but remember, your students will have the hard copy book. So if this is difficult to do now, it will be easier in a real online class if the students have the book at home. Okay, I'm going to put you back into your breakout rooms now just to share what you found and what did you find surprising. Okay.
Ya, just a little info.
Yeah.
Bapak Ibu, apabila nanti sudah ada notifikasi muncul untuk kembali ke main room, silahkan bisa diklik ya untuk join back to the main room. Jadi kita akan kembali berkumpul di sini.
Okay, and I also need to share one more thing. Okay. So let me open it. So everyone should be able to see this, right? Yeah. This is what I sent. Now, remember, your students will have this in a hard copy. And instead of having everybody read a very long, boring reading, it's not boring, but it would be difficult for your students. I've asked one to read, a third of them to read number 1, a third will read number 2, a third will read number 3. Then you talk about what is surprising. Were you correct or incorrect for the true and false questions? And if you have time, you can also try to do the other questions. Okay, so I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms now, just for a few minutes. We won't have too long.
Yeah.
Oh, 29 people have joined late and they are unassigned. Okay, so. Okay, I think everybody is back. Now, again, please remember, this isn't a real class. I cannot give everyone enough time to read. Remember, your students will have the book, but I wanted to show you the option of sharing a document through the chat. And I also showed you the function of broadcasting a message to all. So the teacher, if you're concerned that the students have not all understood the instructions, there is a function to send a message to everyone, which is what I did. Okay, so I hope that you you found the reading interesting. I found it interesting. Okay, so I need to move this away. Okay, so the answers, in case you didn't find them, these were the answers. Sugar used to be very expensive. People did not think that black teeth were dirty. Okay, so if you know anyone who has black teeth, maybe you should tell them that they look beautiful. And the French were not the first to wear high heels. And the answers to number 4 and 5 were true. Now, sorry, this one, rather than sharing the unit in the chat box, I believe Mentari have sent you a sample unit, okay? And I'm going to put you back into the chat box, sorry, into the breakout rooms to explore and answer a few questions. And then we will look at how these can be used in the classroom, okay? I will also send the questions to you in the chat box. Okay. So these are the questions. I'm going to, first of all, share them with you in the chat box. Okay, so okay, so you should now see some questions in the chat box. Okay, and I am going to put you back into the breakout rooms for a few minutes to consider the questions. Okay,
Yeah.
you might not have time to answer all the questions. That's okay. I will go over them on the PowerPoint. Okay.
Ya, jawabannya bisa kita temukan di materi yang sudah di-share sebelumnya ya, di WhatsApp grup Bapak Ibu. Sudah dibagikan di grup WhatsApp, materi atau PDF ya.
Okay. Ocha, if anyone does not have the sample unit, I can share it.
Okay, that's great.
Do you want me to share it anyway?
Yeah.
Okay, so I hope you already have it, but I'm also sharing it
Just
in the
case.
chat box just in case, because we seem to have a good connection today, which is great. And as soon as that is uploaded, I will put everybody into the breakout rooms for around 5 minutes, and then I will bring everybody back. Okay.
Ya, filenya sudah ada di chat box ya, Bapak Ibu. Ini file yang sama dengan yang sebelumnya yang di-share di WhatsApp group.
Okay. Now, I know that many of you will not have had a lot of time to answer the questions. Even if you have thought about the questions, that's fine. Okay. I know that there's not enough time to read a unit of the book. Some of you will already be familiar with that unit, and in which case you could help the others. But what I wanted to show you, first of all, is that in New Frontiers, one of the features that I personally like is that the units are different. So some units may start with listening, others start with reading. There are a lot of opportunities for discussion in all of these. So whenever you see a discussion, then online, this is an opportunity to use a breakout room. And as I said, in your classes, you can join the breakout rooms because you do not have 120 students in the class. So that becomes a little bit easier. And also don't forget, you want to encourage them to use the hard copy and also to have their own ebook open if they have the ebook. Okay, lesson 2. This was a listening, but it's quite interesting. It's all about new jobs. I don't know if you are familiar with these jobs. I was not familiar with all of them myself. So Megan was a UX designer, Jacob a futurist, James is a back-end developer, and Amy is an AR VR, so virtual reality developer. A UX designer, they are the people who make your experience online pleasurable, right? If you find something frustrating and it isn't user-friendly, then the UX designer has not done such a good job. So these are the people, and the back-end developers, these are people who work on apps and programs. I learned something by by looking at this unit, and I'm sure your students would. Do you think your students would like to do any of these jobs, or would you like to do any of these jobs? I think the interesting thing about the 21st century is that some of the jobs that we have today will probably not exist in the future, and some of these jobs will employ a lot of people. Okay, the grammar focus in lesson C is using the future to talk about plans. So again, the students can listen. You can play these through, if you are using the class box, you can play these for the students to listen, or they can even listen at home if they have the app. And the focus of lesson D is writing. Now, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at this. This is talking about an app, and the app is very similar to Instagram, right? So I think for teenagers, they would probably have plenty to say, and it gives them, if you're able to relate what they're learning to real life, it gives them a lot more to talk about. So again, I would put them in breakout rooms, ask them, to read this, and then in breakout rooms discuss how it is different from an app that they know, like Instagram, and maybe you could ask them, how could you improve this app, right? So remember, the students we are teaching, they are digital natives. They have grown up with these ideas and they have a lot of creativity. So you ask them a question of how could you improve this application? They probably have a lot to say. One thing you could do here in activity 6, these are old pieces of technology. Now, my teenage son is fascinated by cassettes, right? He loves cassettes because he thinks they come from a museum. And he has learned to repair Walkmans. He has learned to play and record on cassettes. And a lot of the time they're quite fascinated by things that to us seem very recent inventions. When I say find old realia and bring it to the class, even in a virtual class online, in some ways, it's easier to bring things to the class. You don't physically have to take them. So if your grandpa has an old camera like this, you don't have to bring it to the class, but you can show it on the screen. Okay. Actually, I have an old camera like that, but I forgot to bring it. So I can't show you. And if you look at this activity at the end, this is a great activity because they are having to use their critical thinking skills. This is why it's 21st century skills. One of these is critical thinking. And they have to think, okay, we are going to choose 6 things, 6 cultural items to put onto a USB, right? So this is similar to when we teach primary school children to put things into a box and bury it into the ground. So now we're saying, what would you put on a USB memory stick for future generations, or maybe for aliens to find? So I'd like you to have a think about any ideas you have, and then I will share some of mine. So any ideas that you have, can you put them in the chat box for Miss Ocha, and she will tell me what they are. So for example, you might want to use breakout rooms. You might want to share something in the chat box. You might want to use a poll. What other ideas? What ideas do you have?
Ya, silakan. Okay. Miss Rizky prefer to use poll for this part.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
We are still waiting for the other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Miss Asriani is sharing what she wants to, the things for the spacecraft. It's Indonesia Raya, our country's anthem, to be sent to the galaxy.
Okay. So what this teacher is giving some ideas.
Yeah.
For the students. That's a great. That's. Don't forget that you are a great resource.
And also from Miss Leah, ask students to write their ideas on Jamboard.
Good. Okay. Right, now don't forget, so Jamboard is a Google product. So if you use Google, you could use Jamboard, but you don't need necessarily to have this. You can if you are using Zoom, or you are using Google Classroom, or you are using, there are quite a number of different ways. And as I said, you can also annotate on Classbox. All right, you as the teacher.
And then using Padlet for group discussion.
Yes, yes, okay. Okay, so for the teachers who are familiar with Padlet, Padlet is like having a pinboard or a blackboard online. So this is something, if you want to set it up, it means that the students can pin things on it directly. So this is something you might want them to do for homework rather than in the class. Yeah. Any more ideas?
Yeah. Using polls in Mentimeter. And also,
yeah, you could, but as I said, you don't need to use, okay, so Mentimeter, this is a more advanced polling platform. Okay, so you can use that, absolutely. But don't forget, you don't need a lot of technology. Okay, you can, if you're using Zoom, for example, the polling function is quite adequate for most purposes. Yeah, but Mentimeter is great, absolutely. Anything else?
yeah, another media, maybe using word wall.
Word wall.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, but I imagine it is similar to
wall. Yeah.
Is similar to Padlet. Yeah.
Chat box and also stem from annotation. That's great.
And also what? Sorry.
Stem from annotation in the Zoom app.
Yeah. Okay.
Using the stamp.
Okay.
And also they can put the result of discussion on the Google slide.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some teachers love Google. But do remember there are other options. You don't have to use Google. Not everybody has a Google account. Okay. So I don't think it's something that you want to force on your students. Okay. Very good. So some great ideas, ideas that are every bit as good as mine or better. So I will show you some of my ideas. Might be to get each student to choose a favorite song, a favorite painting, a favorite movie, a favorite game, a favorite TV show, and a favorite sport. Now, I like the idea of the teacher who had some Indonesian cultural items. Sometimes the teacher needs to give options. All right, you give some guidelines. So you might make a list of possibilities to choose from. All right, if you have a very creative class, you might not need to do that. What I have done here is I have decided on the areas to choose from. So they need to choose a song, choose a painting, choose a movie, right? Within that, they can choose what they like. And as the teacher, I might share with them, this is my favorite song. This is my favorite painting. Yeah. So for some ideas. And then in the class, when they come into the class, I would use breakout rooms. Yeah. So that students can compare their ideas. They can agree on one of each. So if, for example, you have 5 students in the breakout rooms, they all have a different list. They have to argue until they only have one in each. All right, and then we can bring them together in the main room and maybe agree as a class. All right, maybe we would decide on the 3 that really they can't live without, for example. Okay, so some great ideas from the teachers here. Thank you so much. I particularly like the teacher taking responsibility as well to give some ideas. I think it's great to have the students writing on the board, and these other ideas like Padlet, Wordwall, Mentimeter, These are great, but they need to be set up before the class. Again, don't let technology control you. Let you control the technology. You don't have to use any of this technology to do a great online class, okay? And within a platform like Zoom, you have chat box. You can use the annotations in different ways. You can use reactions. We don't have time today to show everything. Okay, another variation, you could decide that all the cultural items must be from Indonesia. That way you are also teaching about the culture of the students. You might even decide that the cultural items need to be from that particular part of Indonesia where your school is based. Okay, and the idea that the teacher chooses a selection and the students have to choose from that selection. So particularly with weaker classes, that makes the task much more manageable. Another thing that I would recommend, because remember your students are at home, they're not at school. If they're online, go and interview parents, interview grandparents, okay? What would they suggest? Okay, so just a reminder, okay, so I noticed that Mike has replied to some questions on the chat box, which is very helpful. You will be provided with an access code for these apps. For the teacher, you have the ebook, you have tests, you have answer keys. You also have a learning management system, and the learning management system, if you wish, allows you to assign homework, right? And for that homework to be corrected online. So that is a great feature. Again, don't feel you have to learn everything at once, right? Don't let the technology control you, but with a little practice, you will find all of these quite easy to use. And I know from personal experience that the Compass online platforms are very easy to use compared to some others. Okay, all of these, as I mentioned before, you can download. The students also have a version here, okay, which allows them to access the ebook. So if your students do not have the hard copy student book, or if you want them to be able to listen, for example, to the audio on their own, then that is a great option. And there are also games and activities. Okay. Now, I think we're going to finish with another vote here. Okay, so we have some inventions below: matches, the fridge, and the smartphone. Which do you think was the most significant, the most important? Okay, and I'm going to give you a minute to vote on that. So you just choose one option. I think some of our teachers do not remember life before the smartphone. Okay. Another 10 seconds. Okay. So these are the results. I must say I am a little surprised because I thought that Indonesian people liked good food. Try making good food without a fridge or any heat. Okay. But again, this is something we could discuss, right? We could discuss as a class. It's not really possible to discuss this with 120 participants. Okay. Somebody said, I forgot. The answer is match, not smartphone. Yeah. I think if you like cooking, how are you going to cook without heat or refrigeration, right? And don't forget, 20 years ago, we didn't have smartphones. I remember 20 years ago. I think that you guys are just too young. Okay. So we're coming to the end now. And I just wanted to recap some of the things that we've looked at today. We've looked at the possibilities from using ClassBox and BigBox. I haven't gone into demonstrating because I think this is something that is best done individually. But Campus and Mentari can give you access and they can answer any questions regarding using these great features. I also used the computer sound in the main room. So this is something that in Zoom, for example, you simply, when you're sharing a screen, you click the option to share computer sound. So this means that listening and video activities in some ways are better than in a real classroom because your students are all listening individually with their headphones, for example. And this is an example of where even students who only have a phone and do not have a computer, it's really great for listening and speaking activities. You don't need a computer for these. Also, don't forget that the New Frontiers has QR codes to access audio and video outside the classroom. So your students can access these videos and audio scripts wherever they are, even if they are on a bus or riding a bicycle, they can be listening at the same time. So again, this is a great feature of the series. We used the chat box to share information and to share tasks. Okay, so if you are using breakout rooms, for example, it's a good idea to share a task before they go into the breakout room for them to discuss together. We used the breakout rooms for discussion, okay? Because we had limited time today, I couldn't go into individual breakout rooms and I couldn't address any problems that people had. But again, that is something that in a real class is less of an issue, and the students can be accessing their own copy of the book, either the hard copy or through ClassBox. We used the poll function for voting. This is a great way to break up the class. It's a great way to generate interest in a topic. You can also use it as a way to introduce new vocabulary. So I hope that the workshop today has been some use to you. I hope so. I hope that if you are this guy, that you've managed to climb to the next branch of the tree. Okay. I have also learned something from you. So I remember Mr. Deddy from Mentari at the beginning, he was talking about human development, the importance of the teacher and the fact that we never stop learning. And this is true. Every time I give a workshop, I learn. So today, you have also given me some ideas that I didn't think of mentioning today. So thank you very much for that, and for teaching me about a new kind of music. Okay, so I will return the floor to Miss Ocha, to address any questions to me.
Yeah, okay, dear educators, if you have any question or you want to deliver idea to Mr. David Persey, please you can type it on the chat box or use the raise hand feature. Silakan Bapak Ibu, apabila ada pertanyaan, bisa menulis di chat box ataupun menggunakan fitur raise hand ya. Silakan. We are still waiting for the participants. I think that's because your activity is so interactive and very clear, Mr. David.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah.
I tried my best. Of course, there are things you learn every time you do a workshop. So there are some things I will probably do slightly differently next time, but everyone has been great at participating and trying the new ideas.
Okay, we have here from Ms. Rizky Setiastri. Since I teach teenager, it is quite hard sometimes to ask particular group to be active in discussions. Do you have any ideas to boost or motivate them to speak, Mr. David?
Yeah, I think that in some ways you may find that using some of the online ideas that we've used today will help with students. With teenagers, particularly in a real life class with a lot of other students, they're quite easily distracted. So the polls, for example, give you the opportunity to really focus attention, and they're looking at things individually. Same with using video and listening. It's often easier for them to focus in this way. Okay, so I think the answer to that, there's no simple answer. You need to try different ideas. The idea of the teacher giving students options. So sometimes students can, you're quite right, if you ask them a very open question, like which 6 items would you put on a USB stick, they might not react very positively. But if you give them a list of 20 items and say, right, choose 5 out of these and add 1 more of your own, for example, it gives more of a focus.
Okay, thank you. And we also have a question from Mr. Maulana. How to handle some students in one class that have bad connections while the others have good connections? Sometimes it makes the activity not really effective.
Yeah, there are things that are outside our control. So, for example, today we've been very fortunate that we have a very good connection. Everything on the technology side has worked perfectly. We also have a great team with Mentari. I'm very grateful to you guys because it's been they are the back end developers. They've made everything work smoothly. So there are things we cannot control. However, I would come back to the idea of breakout rooms. If you are in a breakout room of 4 students rather than 25, for example, rather than 30, if 2 of those students were not able to access the materials, the other 2 can share, they can help. Okay, of course, if there is literally no connection, I've had this experience that some classes, some of the students completely disappear through no fault of their own. And if that happens, I think we need to send them after the class some questions to answer. Again, there is no substitute for the hard copy book. Okay, we still, in the 21st century, we still need printed books. We can't completely rely on technology. So if you send them online some questions to answer before the next class, and it enables them to catch up. Okay, that would be my advice in answer to that question.
Okay, thank you. And we have from Mr. Basuki, which one is better, teaching synchronous or asynchronous?
Okay, I think both. So this brings us into a whole different area in terms of maybe Mentari in the future we could do a different workshop focusing on flipped learning and the flipped classroom. So, but that's a great question, because if you put more onus on the students doing activities outside the class in preparation for what they do in the class, I think that the technology again is less of an issue. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you have 2 options in answer to that question, you can teach in a more traditional way, as we have today, in the sense that all the input is in the class, or you can ask the students to read before the class, to listen, to watch videos before the class, and then you're less reliant on the technology during the class.
Okay, thank you. And maybe this would be the last question. Some of the participants asking about how to deal with a class with different pace of learning for the students, because some of the students maybe they haven't learned English before, and while the others have already learned English. What do you think? Because they have different backgrounds. Do you have any strategy for that?
Again, this is a focus for another workshop. It would take at least 2 hours to answer this question. I think first thing to say is that every class in the world, every class of more than 1 person is mixed level. You're always going to have this situation. And and again, coming to the topic of breakout rooms or asynchronous learning, the more you can flip the classroom, so the more the students do outside the class, the more they will arrive in the class on the same level. So for example, if you have some students who are very weak and they need extra help to understand a reading or a listening, if you do that outside the class, maybe they will take 3 times as long as some of the stronger students, but it means that when they come to the class, everybody is more or less at the same level. Maybe not in the same level in terms of how they can communicate their ideas, but at least they have some ideas in their heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, educator, since it's almost time, I have to end the Q&A session. But don't worry, if you still have any question or you want to deliver your idea, you can deliver it to the written email and WhatsApp number on the screen. Silakan bisa dapat dicatat terlebih dahulu. And I would like to say thank you very much to Mr. David for a wonderful and informative session about interesting learning, or how to teach English communicatively to the teenagers. And there is a statement from Mr. David that I very like. I like it so much. So don't let technology to control us, but we are the one who can control the technology. So thank you very much, Mr. David, for this.
And can I say something quickly?
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you for your great